I'm Susan, the founder of Datalink, a tech company that's now worth millions. I still vividly remember the day my family saw my mansion for the first time. Their faces turned as pale as sheets, a sight I'd secretly hoped for but never truly believed I'd witness. It all started in a small town called Millfield. My family lived in a simple, two-story house on Elm Street. My parents, Henry and Linda Thompson, were hard-working but rather conservative. Dad was a mechanic at the local auto shop, and Mom was a school librarian. They valued stability and practicality above all else, and they instilled these values in my 3 older siblings. My oldest brother, Jake, who was 8 years older than me, followed the path expected of him. He studied engineering at the State University and now works as a project manager at a large construction firm. He's married with 2 kids and lives in a nice suburban house, just like my parents always envisioned. My sister, Lily, 6 years my senior, became a teacher. She graduated from the local college and is well respected at the elementary school where she teaches. And then there's Tom, 4 years older than me, who became a police officer. He's a reliable and well-liked member of the local force. I, on the other hand, was always the odd one out. From a young age, I was fascinated by computers and technology. While my siblings were involved in sports or other traditional activities, I was spending hours in my room, taking apart old electronics and trying to put them back together. Mom would often sigh and say, "Susan, why can't you have a normal hobby like your siblings? Lily was reading to kids at the library at your age." One of the most memorable moments was when I turned 13. I'd spent months writing a simple program that could organize the school library's catalog more efficiently. I was so excited to show it to my family. Mom forced a smile and said, "That's nice, dear," before quickly moving on to talk about Jake's latest project at work. It felt like my achievements were never good enough. In high school, I developed a software that could help local businesses manage their inventory. I entered it in a regional technology competition. After countless late nights and weekends of hard work, I won first place. When I called home to share the news, Dad simply said, "That's great, but don't expect this to turn into a real career. You need to focus on something more stable." When it was time for college, my parents assumed I'd follow in my siblings' footsteps and go to the local state university for a practical degree. But I'd been accepted into a top-tier technology program at a university on the East Coast. When I told them, Dad nearly choked on his coffee. The East Coast? That's so far away. And for what? Computer science? "Susan, be realistic," he said. Mom was more subtle in her disapproval. "Honey, we just can't afford to send you that far. Your siblings all went to school close to home." I was determined, though. I took out student loans, applied for every scholarship I could find, and got a part-time job at the campus cafeteria. Being away from home was liberating. I was surrounded by people who shared my passion for technology. In my sophomore year, I met Professor Emily Davis. She noticed my dedication when I stayed up all night debugging a complex project. "Susan, you have a unique talent for this. You're persistent, and that's a rare quality," she told me. Under her guidance, I started to dream of starting my own tech company. When I went home for Christmas and told my family about my dream, they were skeptical. Jake laughed and said, "Do you know how many tech startups fail? You need to get a real job first." Lily added, "Maybe you should work for an established company for a few years to gain some experience." Despite their doubts, I launched my first project during my junior year. It was a mobile app that helped students find study partners. It got some traction on campus, but it didn't grow beyond that. When I called home feeling disappointed, Mom said, "Well, at least you can focus on something more practical now. Maybe you should think about teaching computer classes." After graduation, I took a huge risk. With only $2,500 in savings and my laptop, I moved to Silicon Valley. My first apartment was a tiny studio in a shared house. I worked odd jobs to make ends meet, answering customer service calls during the day, delivering food at night, and doing virtual assistant work on weekends. All the while, I was working on my big idea. I noticed that many businesses were struggling to integrate different software systems. So, I started working on a platform called DataLink. It was a comprehensive solution that could sync data across various software, streamlining business processes. I lived on ramen noodles and coffee for months, pouring every spare cent into server costs and development tools. One day, at a local tech meetup, I had the chance to present an early version of DataLink. A woman named Lisa approached me. She had an MBA from Harvard and years of experience in tech business development. She was genuinely interested in my project. "This is exactly what the market needs," she said. We exchanged contact information and soon became business partners. We entered a pitch competition. The grand prize was $50,000 in seed funding. The weeks leading up to the competition were a blur of preparation. We practiced our pitch over and over again. The night before the competition, I called my parents to share my excitement. Dad said, "Don't get your hopes up. These investors are looking for sure things." The competition was intense. When our turn came, I stepped onto the stage and presented DataLink's features, market potential, and development plan. Lisa followed with our business model and revenue projections. The judges were engaged, asking tough but relevant questions. 3 hours later, we were announced as the winners. We received an oversized check for $50,000, and a prominent investor approached us, offering additional funding. I called my parents again to share the news. Mom said, "That's nice, but is it really going to last?" Dad warned me to be careful with the money. With the funding, we officially launched DataLink. The product was a huge success. Within a year, we had signed contracts with several large companies. Our user base grew exponentially, and industry blogs started writing about us. As the company grew, so did my personal wealth. I moved into a beautiful apartment in San Francisco and bought a new car. I noticed a change in my family's attitude. The calls from home became more frequent, and they started asking more questions about my business. "So, this app thing is really working out?" Dad asked one day, sounding surprised. A few years later, I bought my dream home, a modern mansion in the hills overlooking Silicon Valley. The house had everything I'd ever wanted: a state-of-the-art home office, a beautiful infinity pool, and stunning views. As photos of my new home appeared on social media, my family's attitude changed again. The subtle requests started pouring in. Jake asked if I could help his son with a college internship. Lily mentioned that she needed some advice on a school technology project. But then, the annual family reunion came around. For years, it had been hosted by my Uncle Sam and Aunt Carol at their lake house. I'd always felt like an outsider at these reunions, with my family constantly comparing me to my cousins. I'd skipped the previous year due to work, but I'd planned to go this time. However, a week before the reunion, I received an email from Uncle Sam. "Susan, after careful consideration, we think this year's reunion might not be the best fit for you. Your lifestyle is so different now, and we don't want you to feel out of place," it read. I was shocked. I'd worked so hard to prove myself, and now they were excluding me because of my success. I was heartbroken, but then I got angry. I decided to take matters into my own hands. I called my friend Lisa and told her, "I'm going to host a garden party at my house on the same weekend as the family reunion. I'm inviting everyone except Uncle Sam, Aunt Carol, and my parents." I hired the best event planner in the area, and we worked together to create a magical atmosphere. I sent out personalized invitations to all my extended family members, offering to cover their travel and accommodation expenses. Within 24 hours, the responses started pouring in. Everyone was excited to come. 5 days later, Uncle Sam called me. "Susan, there seems to be some confusion about the dates. Your party is on the same weekend as the family reunion," he said. I calmly replied, I was under the impression that I wasn't welcome at the reunion this year. Your email was very clear. He panicked and said, almost everyone has declined our invitation and is coming to your party instead. You can't just hijack the reunion. I replied, I'm just hosting my own gathering for those who want to come. Everyone is making their own choice. The day of the garden party arrived. The weather was perfect. As the first guests arrived, their faces lit up with awe as they saw my house. They brought gifts and shared warm memories. It was a wonderful atmosphere. Then, to my surprise, Uncle Sam and Aunt Carol showed up. They looked uncomfortable and out of place. Soon after, my parents also arrived. Their faces turned white as they took in the grandeur of my home. It was a surreal moment. During the lunch, Lisa stood up and gave a toast to Susan, who saw a problem and created a brilliant solution. She persevered when others doubted her. Her success is not a matter of luck but of hard work and determination, she said. I saw Uncle Sam shift uncomfortably in his seat. After lunch, Uncle Sam approached me. Susan, I may have been too hasty in my decision about the reunion. Family should support each other, he said. It wasn't a full apology, but it was a start. Later in the afternoon, I found myself alone with my parents on the terrace. Dad said, You've done well for yourself, better than we expected. I replied, Better than you expected because you always expected me to fail. You never believed in my dreams. Mom's eyes filled with tears. We just wanted you to be safe and stable, she said. I told them, what you saw as instability, I saw as opportunity. You dismissed me, and that hurt. Dad tried to defend himself, saying, We supported you the best way we knew how. I got emotional and said, I worked long hours, lived in a tiny apartment, and built this company from scratch. And you call that luck? Mom reached out and took my hand. We didn't understand, but what you've built is amazing, she said. It was a bittersweet moment. I'd finally forced them to see my success, but the validation came too late. The garden party continued well into the evening. As the sun set, the house was bathed in a warm glow. It was a beautiful sight, but I still felt a sense of emptiness. In the following months, my parents and I started to have more open conversations. They still didn't fully understand my tech world, but they were trying. I also continued to grow DataLink. We opened offices in New York and London, and I was featured on the cover of a major business magazine. I met Mark, an architect, at a charity event. He appreciated my drive and my achievements. With him by my side, my mansion became a true home, filled with love and laughter. Looking back, I've learned that true success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about creating a life that's authentically yours, regardless of what others think. The most important approval comes from within. Have you ever had to prove yourself to family who didn't believe in you? I'd love to hear your stories.